Americans are finding themselves deeper and deeper in debt, and one specific age group is really in some trouble. Before I tell you who that is, let's talk about this full report that was just released this week by the Federal Reserve. This is the quarterly report for household debt for the third quarter of 2023, and it found Americans are $17.3 trillion in debt. That's more than 1% higher than it was in the second quarter of this year and is yet again another record high. There were three big contributors to this massive amount of debt. The biggest were mortgage balances, which increased again over the second quarter and now sit at more than $12 trillion nationwide. Not surprising, student loan debt increased by $30 billion in the third quarter to more than $1.5 trillion. And of course, that's because those payments resumed in September for millions of federal student loan borrowers who had been pausing their payments for the last 3 years. And lastly, credit card debt increased by $48 billion in the third quarter. That's an almost 5% increase over the second quarter. That means nationwide Americans collectively were in almost $1.1 trillion of credit card debt. That's $154 billion more than the third quarter of last year and marks the largest year-over-year increase in credit card balances in 23 years. And not only are Americans racking up more credit card debt, they're also falling delinquent on that debt. Serious delinquencies in the third quarter were at almost 6%. In the third quarter of 2022, delinquencies were at about 3.7%. So you can see the increase there. Now, remember how I said there's one age group that's really in trouble when it comes to debt? That group is consumers under the age of 50. According to this Fed report, those under the age of 50 held $9.5 trillion of the debt in the third quarter. That's up from $9.3 trillion of debt they held in the second quarter of this year. And specifically when it comes to credit card delinquencies, millennials were the only age group in the third quarter who have now exceeded the delinquency rate they had before the pandemic started in 2019. But Gen Z had the most credit card delinquency of all age groups. As I said at the beginning of this video, mortgage debt is responsible for most of the debt in this country. You can see that there reflected in the orange. But when it comes to 18 to 29-year-olds, you guys hold the most student loan debt. You can see that there in red. You also hold the most auto loan debt, which you can see in green. But you hold the least amount of mortgage debt. And that's mostly because 18 to 29-year-olds are usually first-time home buyers, and in this current housing market, it's very difficult for you to get into a home.